for someone that's gonna hold a king down. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king crown. I've been looking for somebody that would make me feel complete. I've been looking all my life, I wonder where could she be. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king down. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold a king crown. I've been looking for somebody that would make me feel complete. I've been looking all my life, I wonder where could she be. It's alright, baby, it's okay. I'm gonna love you anyway. When the sun turns blue, when the sky turns gray, my love is gonna be here to stay. I've been looking for someone that's gonna hold.
Welcome to the kingdom. This is King to Queen Talk, where we provide the black, grown, and unfiltered perspective on life, love, and everything in between. I'm Tony G.
I'm Love. I am Unicorn Hippie.
I thought long and hard about what I was going to say today. TJ.
That's original. We are King to Queen Talk. We are back with a part 2. And of course, we are talking about living while black. Now, before we left off, we were talking about, of course, all of the unarmed killings that were going on within America. By now, we've all seen the protests grow larger and larger around the world at this point, from Paris to America to the islands. We've seen them everywhere. Protests just coming up and people really standing up, for every person of color. But where we left off at was why we think our people as a whole are so forgiving to what TJ called the system. Why we're so forgiving to a system that has historically oppressed us and has historically, to this point, slaughtered us. Why are we so forgiving, and why are we always in a position where we have to say, okay, let's move on, and we move on up until the next time it happens? Why do y'all think we're in that space?
I think the reason why we're so forgiving is because we've been brainwashed. I feel like we have anything that is native to our culture, as far as Black culture, African culture, we've been stripped of that. So when you take away all of those things, it's kind of like you can make people be whoever you want them to be. When you break up the African American family and put laws in place that take the man out of the home, of course, kids grow up differently, they think differently. And I think when you just do certain things like that, it allows the system to kind of brainwash us in a way that we feel like we're less than. And so it's like, if your parents grow up like that, they're going to pass it down to you, and you're going to pass it down to your children, unless you actually notice that, it's an issue. You know what I mean? Because it's like trauma passes down unless you fix the trauma. You know what I mean? Unless you heal from the traumatic instances or things that have happened in your family, you're going to keep on passing that down. And I think that's what happens to us, because like I said last time, we don't even realize how great we are because a lot of us haven't been taught that. So that's what I think.
And I think that trauma, like you said, it's handed down. It's from generation to generation. So whether we know it or not, if we don't address that trauma, it's going to spill over into our seeds, into our kids, into our kids' kids, just because it's not being dealt with. And right. So I 100% agree with you on that one. What you think, Lo?
I actually agree with you, Corinne. I also think that what ties into that is like what we were given as far as like religion. Not to get too deep because that's a whole different conversation in itself. But I feel like we've been taught that the Lord forgives, so you have to be forgiving. You know what I mean? So we take that. We take like our families take that to heart, and they pass that down to us, and that would go with your generations upon generations. Those things being passed through. I feel like that's probably one of the main reasons why we, as a whole, tend to be so forgiving until we learn otherwise or we see certain things for ourselves.
I'm with both of y'all. A little bit more on low side about the forgiving and the families passing that down. You know, it's always forgive. You know, even taking it a little left. Even like a lot of families with, you know, your uncles. This is for more so like women go through that type of thing where like they have uncles who either touch them or say weird stuff about them, like, "Oh, girl, your booty getting big," you know what I'm saying? And that's your niece or your, you know what I'm saying, your little cousin. And like, you know, that's a lot. That happens a lot in black families. But your mom or your dad's constantly telling you, you know, don't worry about that. That's nothing. That's just your drunk uncle. Don't worry about that. Just forgive them. No, don't worry about that. Until you get older and you start realizing, you know, that that's a problem and a big problem. And like women start doing that and getting on the side of like, nah, I'm not forgiving. I'm not talking to them no more. You know, stuff like that.
Can I say something before you start talking? So I just had my son go upstairs and get this book. I'm gonna show y'all because I read this once a year. I make my son read it too. It's called How to Make a Negro a Christian. Originally written by a slave master. This is the revised version, but basically it talks about taking their culture, taking away that they worship their ancestors, you know, their past loved ones, break them down and take their religion from them, and you can basically make them do whatever you want. So I would recommend that you guys all read this book. All right.
What's the name of it?
It's called How to Make a Negro a Christian. And the version that I have is by Camu Tatutu, but this is still the original.
That's interesting. Well, I'm going to actually agree with you guys on the religious aspect, because just in conversations that I've had with numerous people about all the things that are going on today, you know, that comes up very often when it comes to, well, you know, we got to forgive and we have to move on and move forward. And it's like, I had to really break it down biblically because going back to even with Moses and Pharaoh, you know, that Moses stood in the gap for a people that were oppressed. That is why they were trying to leave because they were oppressed. And so in order for them to leave, they had to be willing to do a revolt. They had to stand up and fight. And they had to leave, but they had to fight in order to get that freedom. And I think that's what we're missing. It's like, oh, we don't want to fight. We want to be peaceful. And it's like, but what if your oppressor is already telling you that that's not going to do it? Like, peace isn't going to do it. And we've seen that with Kaepernick. And I mean, that I felt like that is the perfect example of it. It's like, in the most peaceful way, possible, y'all still saying, no, that's too much. You know, it's too much. So we have to be willing to fight. And I think people lose sight of, you know, they think of Jesus in so many ways and try to apply Jesus in certain situations. And I'm like, but the Jesus I serve hasn't called for me to be oppressed. That's not the Jesus I serve. So I don't know, you know, where it gets lost in translation, but we see it like constantly, and it is a religious thing, at least in my opinion. And that's why I say, like, from Moses to Joshua, all of these people were revolutionaries. Like, they were created to stand apart and be able to lead revolts against oppression. So I'm still trying to wrap my mind around why people are, you know, forgiving. But Kirk Franklin said something that was so poignant to me in his recent interview with the Breakfast Club. because you know they did the verses. Did you guys watch that? Side note. The verses. Yeah, so they brought him on, and you know, Charlemagne was like, well, what if I don't want to forgive them right now? What if I'm not in a forgiving mood? DJ Envy said the same thing. What if I don't want to forgive the man who killed, you know, an innocent man on the ground with his knee to his neck? What if I don't want to forgive him? And Kurt said, you know what? We as Christians become so judgmental when we see people in different spaces than we are. And if we feel like we found a place of forgiveness, the other person should be able to find a place of forgiveness. He said, well, guess what? I'm not there myself. As Christian as I am, I have not found that place of forgiveness. And he said, honestly, I think people would probably think differently if it was your brother, if it was your father. It doesn't mean you don't have to achieve forgiveness. But what if I'm just not there right now?
Right.
And it's okay to go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And in going through that process, you know, you have to be willing to, you know, accept those feelings and deal with those feelings, work through those feelings. So
but you know what? I think people equate forgiveness with healing. People think if you're going to forgive, or if you want to heal, you have to forgive. There's plenty of stages in healing.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to immediately forgive to start the healing process. And I think as Black people, you know, that's what we think. You know, forgive and forget, or to heal, you must forgive, or forgiveness is for you, it's not for the other person. That's what we're always taught. But there's so many levels of healing that forgiveness is not the first one.
Right.
That's my last one.
Mine too, girl.
And do y'all think it also can come from fear? I think a lot of people walk in fear of, okay, if I don't respond in a certain way, maybe that's how I should word it. If I don't respond in a certain way, what is going to be the consequence of that action?
I don't know that we're still at that point. I think at this point people don't care, because if we're peaceful, it's a problem. If we're not peaceful, it's a problem. So there's really no win in this for us.
We did say we want to bring on a special guest. Many times in today's society, there are a lot of stories that go untold, a lot of stories that go unheard in mainstream media. And today we have a special guest that really has what many may call an untold story. She has been on TV shows such as Roland Martin. She's been on other media outlets in order to tell her story, but her story is definitely reflective of what we've been seeing in recent events, such as George Floyd and other people that have fallen victim to police brutality. So at this time, we want to welcome Miss Monteria Robinson. Welcome to the kingdom, Miss Monteria.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Monteria Robinson. I am the mother of Jamarion Robinson. As you stated, you know, my son was killed in August the 5th, 2016. So I've been on this journey for quite some time. I've been out here in the community, you know, walking the walk, fighting the fight. And I felt as though no one was listening to me. So within the right before Ahmaud Arbery was killed, I dropped my son photos, like his actual photos with him deceased, on my Facebook page, and I got over 5,000 shares. So I did kind of like that Emmett Till moment. And then after I did that, I think about 2 days later, I dropped it on TikTok, and I got over 80,000 plus views. I kind of looked at it. Last time I looked at it, was like 84,000 or something. And then right after that, I think maybe that following day, Ahmaud Arbery was killed. And
Wow.
then, and I still kept going, you know, with, you know, doing stuff on social media outlets or what have you. But when I saw Ahmaud Arbery, it made me angry. And because I'm from Brunswick, Georgia, you know, my parents, I was born there. My parents were born there. Their parents were born there. So I was raised there. You know, I think my mom moved away from Brunswick, Georgia when I was like in the 3rd grade, and she moved to Atlanta, Georgia. But that's just kind of like a little history about me. So when I saw George Floyd death, that's like it's like my top blew off. And you know, and I talked to other mothers too. It's like we all felt the same way because we saw it, you know, the actual video death of him. You know, I couldn't watch the whole thing, but it took all us back to our kids' death. And so, just with all of that being said, you know, that's just kind of like what I've just been feeling, you know, like angry. And when I come across, I don't know if you guys have heard me lately in some of my speeches I've been doing. You know, I've been at a lot of events. I've been doing a lot of protests, rally marches. I was like, I'm gonna make them listen to me because before no one wanted to listen to me, but they're listening now. And so, with all of that being said, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what happened to my son. On August the 5th, 2016, my son was visiting his girlfriend. He was actually inside her apartment watching TV. She had just left the apartment like at 1:15, approximately about 1:30 p.m. Her door was battle ram open by 17 road police officers from Atlanta to Fulton County to Fayette County to Clayton County to U.S. Marshal Service with no warrant. So they didn't even have a warrant. They immediately opened fire on my son. Over 90 rounds were fired at him. I'm going to say that again. Over 90 rounds were fired at my son. After that, they deployed flashbang grenades that landed on him, burning him. My son had a total of 76 bullet wounds to his body. I'm going to repeat that. My son had a total of 76 bullet wounds to his body. After deploying the flashbang grenade, someone stood over him and shot down into his body 5 times. And actually, my attorney confirmed that with me on yesterday because the original forensic report was saying that someone stood over him and shot down into his body 3 times. But he hired a second forensic expert, and they stated no, it wasn't 3 times. It was a total of 5 times. After that, someone stood over him and shot down into his body. He was then handcuffed and drugged down a flight of stairs. Again, he was handcuffed and drugged down a flight of stairs where they left his body and like they dropped it inside the living room where he laid there for over 8 hours with no medical aid rendered.
I've been following you. I've been even, you know, my co-hosts don't even know. I've been marching and protesting probably now for about 3 weeks. I saw you with a poster, and that's when I reached out to you. But what I didn't understand is why were they there in the beginning?
Where actually because actually after they killed my son, my mother and my 2 brothers and a few of my aunts and uncles arrived on the scene. And my mother was asking them why, why would you all do something like that? She was just hysterical. And they stated, we were looking for him from a week ago. He pointed a gun at a police officer and took off running. And then the GBI lady, Miss Cynthia Atkins, showed my mother a photo of the person they were looking for. And when my mother looked down at the photo, she said, "That's not my grandson." And my 2 brothers went, "That's not my nephew." My older brother then went, "My nephew looks like me." So my brother showed her that photo. And when he showed her that photo, she asked my brother to airdrop that photo to her. And so my brother did. They took that photo, dropped it on the news that night, and said East Point man had a shootout with police today.
Yeah, because I know from just reading it, I know there never was a gun found. He didn't have a gun. He was attending college in a whole nother state. So what I never understood was, were they at the wrong address?
And I have the law enforcement expert report right here, and I'm gonna read some of because my attorney hired a law enforcement expert that went over the whole case in detail, and basically just reading, just going over some of the stuff he mentioned in the police report. Number one, the person that they were looking for a week before that. It looks like they stopped someone and asked them a question or two, and then they wrote that report. But after they killed my son, they went back and changed that report like 3 times. So they edited to make it try to fit my son. It stated that officers had made no entry into the apartment, but were shouting commands from outside of the apartment. It says this is critical because none of the officers were trapped inside, where it may have been necessary to fire in self-defense. And then another, I'm kind of giving y'all inserts of what the firearm expert, the law enforcement expert stated. They said they shot him in the chest. Then he stepped behind the wall. He reappeared. They shot him some more. Then he reappeared again. Then Robinson fired 2 to 3 rounds at the officers. No evidence of this was later found. Right? I'm going to read another insert that he said. Flashbang grenades was excessive and constituted a constitutional violation to someone who was not offering an identifiable imminent threat of harm to the officers. It says Jamarion was down and not moving when flashbang grenades were deployed. It say no one admitted to going upstairs. So in the report, it stated they didn't know they were going to be investigated, because after they killed my son, my family and I, we hired our own forensic person, we hired our own investigator, and we hired our own ballistic person. So they killed him August the 5th. Then on August the 8th, they rolled up their incident report of what happened. So everybody wrote their incident report on August the 8th. And then everybody wrote the same thing, that they never went upstairs. But we know that's not true, because somebody walked up the stairs, stood over my son, and shot down into his body 5 times. It was my investigator who retrieved those bullets from the floor. I'm not sure if y'all can see that on that little flyer right there. My investigator was the one that retrieved. It was really like 2 bullets that were embedded in the floor, and the other 3 remained inside of him, because even the medical examiner report stated that he had so many bullets in his body. And my son is little, like he was only like 5'7", 150 pounds, maybe wet. So imagine 76 bullet wounds to somebody of that stature and size. Let's see. I want to read another insert that the law enforcement expert stated. He said Robinson never fired at the officers, but 3 officers began to fire at Robinson. It say based on all 3 stories, there is questions about whether the suspect drew a weapon or had a weapon at all. Sharekangas gave false information when he reported that Hines, Dole, and Hutchinson exchanged gunfire with Robinson. It is clear that there was no exchange of gunfire between Robinson and the officers. Hines, Dole, and Hutchinson fired at Robinson approximately 99 times, and Robinson never fired back. So those are kind of like bullet points that I took from the law enforcement expert. And then it says the flashbang grenades was unnecessary and excessive under the circumstances. Flashbangs are not intended to be thrown directly at people. Jamarion Robinson's fingerprints were not on the .380 firearm. No gunpowder residue test kit was conducted on Robinson's hands. So there is no evidence that there was even, a gun. And the gun that they say they took from the scene, it did not even work. It's like it didn't even work. But they stated that he started a shootout. But also, too, there's a part in here that states that the officer, because they all use that gun, because I'm not sure if you all saw the recent incident of the college students. Did you guys see that?
Right. Yes.
And do you all recall them saying gun? Did y'all hear that in the actual video? And actually, that was another reason why I was so angry, because one of the officers, Willie T. Saul, that was involved in the incident with the students, he was also involved in my son's death too as well. Actually, he killed someone in 2012, and also he killed someone in 1995. He was involved in my son's death. He was the one who actually handcuffed my son and drug him down a flight of stairs. So that's like 4 incidents. Why is he still in our community working? Why is he still patrolling the streets, continuously doing the same thing? In the original report from July 27, it was like they wrote two sentences. Like, I think they said approach male. They thought he was homeless or something like that. But after they killed my son, they came back and wrote like two paragraphs. And then the U.S. Marshals, they came back in and added their stuff to it. But you can't come back and keep editing. You got to tell what happened that day, that time. You can't come back a week later and say, oh, let me write two paragraphs and say, oh, he had a gun. He had this. This person did that. And that's what they did. So they falsify and change all the documentation to like try to make it my son. But I kept going, no, y'all not going to drop this false narrative on my son. My son's a student athlete at Tuskegee University. He quiet. He don't bother nobody. So come with a better narrative than that.
Right. From the research I found, there was an arrest warrant, but there was not a search warrant. And those are two different things. So you can have an arrest warrant for a person that does not automatically give you the right to go into a house, because you have to have an actual search warrant in order to go into someone's house. So,
and my son didn't even live there. Like, he did not live there. That
so
wasn't his home.
there was
was
a multitude of things that were just wrong, you know, in the whole setup. And I also want to point out that it also says that there were 8 different law enforcement agencies that were involved in the shooting. And so it's my understanding that you guys did do a civil case. Is that true?
That's correct. That was filed June of 2018. I mean, January of 2018.
And what was the result of the civil case?
Well, actually, that's the issue now. You know, we've been waiting on, because you can't do the civil case before the criminal case. And so, Paul Howard has been promising me, you know, who is the Fulton County DA, district attorney, that he's going to pursue these officers. And actually, he told me he was going to do it in February. They were going to go before the grand jury in February. And then he moved it to March. And then March the 3rd was the date. And then March the 3rd, you know, we had the virus and all of that stuff going on at the end of February. And so that just basically set everything back. But I'm at the point now, I feel like, you know, we're 4 years in. You know, I did a press conference on June 2nd with the state representatives here in Georgia, you know, with Renita Shannon, Park Cannon, you know, B. Wynn and all of them. And, you know, they let us basically come on there and, you know, kind of talk about police brutality that's occurring in Georgia, because Keisha Lance Bottoms was getting on, you know, the news and the different outlets that, oh, Atlanta's a great city. We don't have those issues here. So we did a press conference to say, no, that is happening here in Atlanta. And I was like, you know, there's been over 130 deaths of brown and black men here in Atlanta since 2015. Facts. You know, Atlanta is ranked number 10 with the most fatal police shootings. Facts. How dare you arrest the officers that were involved in the tasing death of the students, and you haven't arrested not one person that was involved in my son's murder? I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Why you want me waking up? I want closure. It's like that's where I'm at now. I want to move on with my life. This has been my job for the last 4 years, and it's been hard for me. You know, it's been a struggle because I've been on the news, the media and stuff so much that nobody won't even hire me. I've been living with my mother. You follow what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I just want closure so I can just move on with my life and be done with this whole situation. Why it feel like I'm carrying like 100 people on my back and nobody won't get off. You know what I mean? Let me rest or take a break. So that's why I'm so angry.
So let me ask this. Is there an actual list of all of the officers involved that would also state which agencies that they're attached to, in order to say if they are FBI or some level of type of federal agent? Is there any list of that kind that exists?
Well, in my civil suit, it tells you which, you know, what county they were with. And there was only one of them that was actually with the U.S. Marshal Service.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I can give you
that was something that I did. I believe Roland Martin also kind of touched on it, where he said that there were other agencies attached, and it could have just been one person, you know, that made it them a federal type agent, and apparently the government was trying to suppress the DA from actually questioning the federal agents. And so I'm assuming that that is part of the issue that has came up, or at least that's what the DA is trying to, I guess, put out there, that you can't question these individuals.
But he don't even, the DA has the power. He even stated on the news when he arrested the officers for the tasing. He said, I don't have to get permission. You know, I don't have to go through no protocol or no channel to arrest them. I can do what I want and I can charge them late. I can arrest them and charge them later. You're gonna arrest those officers, and I'm gonna make sure you arrest those officers. So that's where I'm at right now with him. I got my foot on his neck, and I'm not letting up.
Understood. So let me ask this: what can we, as the Black community, what can we?
Actually, what I need for the Black community to do a couple of things. First, I have a petition on change.org. And the name of it is Justice for Jamarion. So if everybody can go out there, sign a petition, share it. Once I get that 100,000, we will present that petition to him. Another thing too, I want your listeners to also call Paul Howard's office, and I'm going to give you that number. It's 404-224-3230. Again, that number is 404-224-3230. And I want them to request for the immediate arrest of those officers that was involved in Jamarion Robinson's case. And third, I want everybody to leave a public comment on all Atlanta City Council meetings, demanding them to implement policies circle around, police misconduct.
Like we said, there are so many stories that are untold like this, and we realize that many of them do not make it to mainstream media. So we want to be sure that we are a platform that gives a voice to the voiceless, that amplifies those who have had voices, and really get it out there to everyone in order for justice to be served. The Breonna Taylor law that just went into effect, it's called basically the no-knock warrant. That is now, I'm going to just read it verbatim. It's outlawing no-knocking warrants and requiring body cameras to be turned on before and after every search.
So each state has their own law. So we did just draft a bill, and all the states, we're all fighting for that, for the same thing. Basically, the no-knock warrant, the excessive force, the mental health, body cameras, qualified immunity. And so all of those I just announced. That's a bill that we're presenting to the House right now. And the name of that bill that we want passed is the Jamarion Robinson's law.
And to be clear, the Breonna Taylor one is for Louisville, Kentucky. They passed that law in Kentucky.
On all social media outlets, Justice for Jamarion, and it's justiceforjamarion.org is the website. But all social media outlets are Justice for Jamarion.
Well, my condolences for your loss.
Thank you.
Completely behind you. I hope everything works out in your favor and get justice for your son.
Well, we do definitely appreciate you. Once again, we send our love, prayers, thoughts, and condolences to you and your family. We know this isn't an easy subject to continuously tackle, but we do believe that justice will be served, and it will be served because we're taking a stand. No longer are we asking, we're demanding. And we are demanding justice for all of our Black people, all of our people of color that have been unjustly killed at the hands of police brutality and racism. And so at this time, we just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk with you. We appreciate you just taking that time. And so
thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Once again, we do appreciate Ms. Monteria joining us on today. We know that that is a difficult topic to even dive in. You can't even imagine what she's going through. We want to lighten the room a little bit because, of course, it was pretty heavy. So now we're going to go to our questions in our base. Lo, pick your number.
Oh, Jesus. 11.
All right. Describe your perfect mate. I think that was the first cuss word we had all episode.
Right. It's a nigga right now, like.
He about to change up his whole swag. He about to change it all up.
Whatever.
He's gonna start going to church and everything.
Caring, he's charismatic. He can take my sarcasm. He has really good character. He's family oriented. He's spiritual. He is loving. He is supportive. He is a go-getter. He's handsome. I prefer him. He's tall, dark, and handsome, you know. But
does he have to have a 9 to 5 or can he be an
tall
entrepreneur?
What you say, TJ?
Define tall.
I mean, if we're talking preferences, I mean,
that's the question.
We're talking like 6 foot and up, but I would date somebody that's my height. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not dating nobody that's 4'11" or under 5'6". So that's just what it is. And AG, I'm not even a real entrepreneur, so I can't have those kind of feelings. So I want him. He needs to be able to take care of himself. He needs to not be asking me for money. He needs to not have children because I prefer someone who does not have kids. But he needs to be able to fund his own lifestyle and take care of himself. And when we want to take trips, he needs to be able to take trips. Not saying he got to foot the whole bill, but I'm just saying I need to be like, let's go. He's like, okay. He needs to be able to travel. He needs to want to travel.
Gotcha.
In short, you know, that's the gist of it.
That's the start of the list.
Right. What you got, Corinne? What number?
Oh, 12.
When was your last sexual experience?
Yes.
Come on, let me tell y'all, okay?
Tell us.
Because I stay getting some head, okay? Let me see here. A few days ago, okay?
Nigga, define a few days ago.
Hold on, what's today?
Today's Friday.
Anyway, it was about 4 days ago, okay? About 4 days ago,
Okay.
let me tell y'all, I was in California with Bay.
California love.
Okay? Getting served. Hold on, let me tell y'all. Getting served fresh fruit off the tree from the backyard, okay? He cooked for me every day, okay?
Are you in Jamaica?
No, it was in California. He cooked for me every day. We watched the
talking about
sunrise.
sex. We ain't talking about all the other. What was the
We
last
had the sunrise and the sunset.
She's trying to set the scene.
I gotta tell y'all, because that's how good it was, okay? So we watched the sunrise, the sunset, and we had sex about 5-6 times a day, no joke, because we was on vacation, okay?
How many days was y'all gone? That's a lot. That's excessive.
About a week, you know what I'm saying? But every day, 5-6 times a day.
5 times a day for no week. I'm just not. My
You're not?
okay. She's tired.
Let me tell you, we can't cut my hands off each other. It was just that great, okay? And let me say this, shout out to Quarantine Bay, because you know who you are. Hey, Quarantine Bay, I love you. Quarantine Bay, I love you. You the best. I just want you to know I love you.
You love him.
I love him, yes.
You know that, hey, T, that good dick can do it to you, boy. You be like,
listen, first of all, let me tell you something. That's a lie.
She's seeing stars.
No, let me tell y'all something. First of all, that's a lie because we've been friends since we were 15 years old. So yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You know all the niggas in your life since you were 15 years old.
I don't meet new
damn,
people. I don't like meeting new people. You know, all my friends are like my friends. And let me tell you, I was throwing that thing back too, okay?
All right, CJ.
All right.
Hold on.
What are your number 4, B?
Quarantine back.
Number 4.
Oh, booty getting fat.
hey.
We knew that was going to be something special that you want to share with us, Corinne. Who is your celebrity crush?
Angela Simmons.
He got us on Angela.
Why Angela?
That's his type. That's his whole. Let me answer that. Okay.
How do you know what
TJ.
his type is?
Listen, I know TJ. That's his type right there to a T. Angela Simmons is his prototype girl. So if y'all think y'all finna get TJ, if you don't look like Angela Simmons, you ain't getting it. Go ahead, TJ. Go ahead.
Actually, Angela, she's a little curvier.
She's a little curvier than she used to be, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then I'm used to seeing you with
nobody. You used to seeing me with nobody.
You right. You right. Where is the strangest place you've ever had sex?
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
Go ahead, tell the truth, shame the devil, dog.
Come on, Pastor. Let them know.
This could go so many ways right now. It could go so many ways. So many ways.
Yeah, you gotta think. You little nasty dog.
He don't know if he want to tell y'all the strangest place. Because he might not be allowed back in church.
Now this was in my earlier days, you know, my earlier years. You know, I'm reformed. I'm reformed now. But I would say it was her office building. Her office.
No.
That's the strangest place you've had sex.
Yeah.
That is not the strangest.
I said what I said.
That's it. That's the strangest place.
That is not the strangest place.
It's tea in this cup.
Okay. You listen, y'all. He had sex in church.
I do not have sex in church. But on that note, closing out. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get our subscribers up. Make sure you follow us on IG, follow us on Facebook.
Kill it, buddy.
All those comments and shares. Share this with your friends. We love y'all, and we're out.
Peace.